All right, what's up, everybody? I am super pumped about this interview for two reasons. One, I'm not the only one doing the interviewing. I have Sean Herrero joining me. It's not the first time I've interviewed Sean. I think you guys know that. But Sean, I think this might be the first time you and I together have interviewed someone else. Is that right?
That's right. I'm super pumped for this one. This has been a while in the works, so I'm really glad we put it together.
Yeah. So Sean and I, whenever he's in town doing his events, his workshops, we usually do a walk and talk. And the person that Sean is going to interview in a minute, Joel Turner, has come up on multiple walks. I mean, this is someone that has been a mentor to Sean, someone who Sean just trains with, and he thinks it's someone who's really important to the mortgage industry. And when you think of the headline of today's call, how to control your mind to perform at your highest potential. And I'm just going to put a little word on the end of that when it matters most. I mean, I think no matter what you do, whether you're a real estate agent, you're a mortgage professional, you're a parent, uh, in this case, a lot of this is going to come around hunting. You're hunting. That matters. So Sean, how do you want to frame the call and introduce our special guest today?
Well, I'll give everyone the backstory. So those of you that know me, I'm an adventure lender on Instagram. I rock climb, hunt. I love being outside. And I had a friend tell me that Joel was teaching an archery class in our neck of the woods, and I've followed Joel on social media for a long time. And there's no way I wasn't missing that class. So we go to the class. Joel walks us through everything, and it was like kind of like Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi. Like a lot of what he taught us, we weren't shooting. Like it was just these mental games. And you guys know me, I take everything that I learn in the sports I enjoy doing, going, I can apply this to my business. And I told Joel that day, I was like, dude, this all fits into what we do for a living in an odd way. And then, like Dave said, we were doing a walk and talk, just talking about the mindset that has been, the last couple of years in our industry. It's the market's fault. It's this fault. The reason we aren't where we want to be, we all have these external reasons or thoughts of why we are that way. And I was just like, Joel's process will change that for the people that want to change. And that's how this call came together. So if you're not already following Joel, his Instagram's incredible. It's a lot of outdoors stuff, but he was on Joe Rogan, which that's where I initially saw him at, on the Joe Rogan podcast. And what Rogan said was, I think that what you teach people applies to life. It applies to anxiety-filled situations. You have figured out something that is so useful, so repeatable, and so important. And they were talking about from an archery perspective. And I noticed the same thing when I took the archery class. And now Joel has started Mind IQ at mindiq.com, which takes these principles that started in shooting and now apply in other places, which is what we'll talk about today. So Joel, thanks for taking a break on your September out in the woods mission. I appreciate you doing this with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas.
So where have you been, by the way?
I've been Montana and Colorado and everywhere in between. So it's been quite a journey this month, but it's super fun to see things come together, and we get lots of thank yous, thank you notes, all kinds of folks messaging us that we have literally changed their life. And it may be in hunting, it may be in shooting, it may be in mortgage lending, it may be in whatever it is. My goal is for people to know how they do what they do. And when you know that, when you know exactly how you do what you do, then you can start to transfer that information to other people. But, I got to train the Philadelphia Phillies pitching team this year, and it was fascinating to me to walk into an arena that I didn't know that much about, and to walk in there and to have the same realization that people really don't know how they do what they do. And in your industry as well, I'm sure there's instructors in your industry that if they don't really know how they did it, then they're not really transferring the information. And then that success starts to wane, right? With every student that it goes to, it just starts to become a watered down message. So we've really just beat it down to the nth degree. What is the ultimate skill of the human being? And that's just going around to virtually every industry, every problem, everything that we do, and applying these principles to it, and then understanding exactly how you did it. And it's been a heck of a journey for me. And yeah, it's very fulfilling, very impactful.
So, I mean, I have had Sean describe what you do a little bit, and just to bring our audience up to speed, I think it might be a good idea. And Sean, correct me if you want to take it a different direction, but at the end of the day, your goal and the way you've discovered this, this process that can apply to everything in life, it came from learning how to be a great archer. And then it's proved out because you've got a son who, from what I've heard, is a pretty good archer.
Yeah.
I think he might even be one of the world's best archers. And so it's this process, and then you've trained people. And I just learned that the Phillies brought you in because they thought you could help them perform better, I guess.
Right.
So why don't you tell a little bit about that backstory, and then Sean, let's you and I make sure all the dots got connected, because you've been through his online training platform as both a hunter and a leader, someone that's pretty passionate about mindset. And then Sean and I will connect the dots as we go.
It really all began in shooting. I mean, I started shooting a rifle when I was 5 years old. I started shooting a bow when I was 7. And it led to a love of shooting, but it was really a love of mental control, not knowing that at the age of 7 years old. But why can't I draw my bow back and aim at the target without letting it go early? Why is it that when I get on a center fire rifle, I punch the crap out of the trigger and I can't hit anything? But I loved shooting so much, and it was such a mental exercise in control. It was just a thing that I did, right? And I shot and I loved shooting, but I wasn't that good at it. And I wanted to be good at it. And life progressed. And then I got some positions where shooting was included with the federal government. And then I became a cop. And that's where it all kind of came together, because when I became a cop, I had to figure it out, because it scared me to death to miss. If it came down to a lethal force incident, it scared me to death to miss. And then even more, to add more to that pile, I became a SWAT sniper in 2003. And that really scared me, because what am I going to do when I get in an extreme stress tactical situation, like a hostage rescue or something, and I miss because I couldn't control my mind, and it scared me to death. And I became a good shooter, but because I didn't know how I did it, I was not able to really transfer that information. And then I became the lead firearms instructor for Washington State. So every police officer, sheriff, game warden, whatever, every law enforcement agency had to come through me for firearms training in the academy. And that's what gave me the platform to actually figure out, how do I get a police officer to concentrate on a movement, a slight pressure increase on the trigger that, I mean, it causes an explosion. This movement causes an explosion. So how was I supposed to get this cop that's in a life or death situation to concentrate on the trigger press when it mattered most? And being the lead firearms instructor, I was able to actually experiment on thousands of recruits. And it finally dawned on me how we did it. And it was just a progression of experimentation and getting these folks to actually think. But even back then, this was 2009, I didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't realize that I was exercising the ultimate skill of the human being. And so now that we've progressed so far, and I was taking those, bow hunting and archery has always been my sounding board, because, thank goodness you didn't get in very many lethal force engagements as a cop, but you hoped it never happened. But in hunting, you hope it happens several times a year. So bow hunting was always my sounding board. Archery was always my passion, my love in life. So I was failing in that regard. I was okay in firearms, but failing in that regard. Then I started to figure things out in archery, and then we started to figure things out and how it applied to life. So, life goes on. Bodie's born in 2007, my son Bodie, and I was in the infancy of this program of Shot IQ when he was born, and I saw the same things in him that I see in, thousands of archers now, literally in every archer now. And I was able to kind of mold his brain and hone his skills to now where he's considered one of the greatest archers on the planet at 17 years old. He's won numerous world championships, national championships, traveled all over the place. That's how he makes his living, and he does very well at it. So all this came together. People want to know, no matter how much money you have, people have the same mental problems as far as control. So people started contacting me, and that led to Peter Attia, that led to Joe Rogan, that led to all these folks. And then once I got on the Joe Rogan podcast, that's where things really came together, because I did not have the words to help the thousands of people that were messaging me with their problems. Like, I didn't know that the Olympic French decathlon coach had certain problems with his long jumpers. Who knew, right? I didn't know that this certain person was dealing with anxiety problems. Who knew? So I had to figure out the mental game of life. And so because what I found is that people talk about it. They say that they're working on it. Oh, I'm working on my mental game of golf. I'm working on my mental game of public speaking, whatever it may be, becoming a leader. What's the mental game? And because nobody had defined it, they didn't really know how to play that game. And I didn't either. I had never defined it until I was asked. I work with Blake Brinker at Nth Talent, and he asked me that question. He said, can you define the mental game? And I had to think for a moment. I'm like, mental game of what? And he said, that's all I'm asking. I'm like, okay. So I had to think for several minutes. I go, okay, here it is. This is the definition of the mental game. It's understanding where, when, and how to direct your conscious mind into a specific task at a specific moment. That's the mental game of life. You can now take whatever problem you are having and you can plug it into that equation, understanding where to put your conscious mind, when to put it there, what's your moment of truth within the problem, and then how do you put it there? And that gets us down to the ultimate skill of the human being.
Powerful. Guys, right there. I don't care who you are. If you like to win at anything, there's a golden formula right there. The definition of the middle game is understanding where and when and how to direct your conscious mind into a specific task at a specific moment. Like, I mean, I'm gonna be nerd thinking about that for a while. Hey,
Yeah.
Sean, you know where we're at in the conversation. You know what you want mortgage advisors, realtors, anyone that tunes into this channel to come away with this. Where should we go?
Well, I think the context of this is really important, because Joel's talking about shooting and archery and things that seem like they don't apply to our industry. And I've applied every sport I've done. I can find an analogy of how what I do in that sport applies to my job. So as an example, with when I used to do all those Spartan races, the reason I love Spartan races is because I didn't have to worry about getting to the finish line. I just had to get to the next obstacle and overcome the next obstacle. And that became an analogy in my job processing a mortgage for someone. I'm not worrying about the close of escrow. If I just get to the disclosures properly, the rest will happen. But if we worry about the finish, you'll make a ton more mistakes. And it's this mental game that we place with archery. So with archery, if I get a new release, a new bow, new arrows, I have all these external things I can blame for why I'm not shooting well. And I can spend a ton of money to fix those things. And the problem is still the problem. It's not the release. It's not the arrow. It's not the bow. It's my execution. And that is the same thing that applies in our business. We don't need another CRM. We don't need this. We don't need that. We don't need these external things. We're always looking for a tactic or a product to make us better, when the reality is what Joel just said, is be present in that moment to solve that specific problem. And I think that is what we are truly lacking in most of what we do. And the big thing for me has been the market. Everyone has blamed the market for why they aren't where they want to be. And this is the biggest thing I've learned from trying to promote the event that I do all year this year is everyone had excuses for why they were willing to accept their current environment instead of being willing to change it. And I found that really interesting. And it just, everything to me comes down to mindset. So everything Joel is describing, like he said, doesn't matter what you apply this formula to. If you apply this formula in our industry in each specific tiny little problem, which we all have, you'll solve them faster and you'll become better faster. And that's what I want from all of us is I want us to be better for more people. So that's kind of what I think this is about is applying this formula. And Joel will get into that. That started for me with archery. But again, he said, okay, you're going to do this. You guys are going to sit down and you're going to draw your name over and over and over. And I'm like, why? Like, why are we writing our name? And it had nothing to do with shooting a bow, but it had everything to do with anything, every problem we have, because we just do things wrong. So there's just all these little analogies that will be really beneficial if you stay the course through this, because I don't want anyone to be like, oh, I don't shoot bows, I don't shoot guns, I don't play baseball, so this isn't relevant to me. I'm telling you right now, as a mortgage professional, this may be one of the best calls we could have going into the fourth quarter. Like, I'm very grateful that this came together at the beginning of the fourth quarter because it'll shape what your 2025 will look like.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. So couple things, guys. One, I had watched the Joe Rogan interview. One, just because Sean told me to, and two, as prep for this, I'm going to put a link to that down below for people that want to hear Joe Rogan interview this guy. And Joe, as most people probably know, is a hunter and was focused on like, hey, how can I, be a better hunter? How can we shoot more accurately? And then he's just always so curious and nerdy out. So for folks that want to go deeper, check it out. We'll also have a link down below to both Shot IQ, which is a very successful online training platform that if you want to learn how to shoot better, that's the place to do it. I mean, the world's best place to learn how to shoot better. And then Mind IQ, we'll have a link to that. So I just wanted to let folks know there will be links to go deeper on this. But where do you guys think we should go right now to make sure people really get the lesson? They get some tangible value. Like right now, I think we've piqued curiosity, but I want to make sure people walk away from this interview with like, okay, I can apply this.
Right. So archery was just the start of it, but archery is the top of the top for human concentration. You're concentrating on a movement that causes an explosion. And be that as it may, that's just in shooting. But the main thing is that you are overriding your limbic system. That's what you're doing. Your limbic system just wants to get rid of that arrow and be done with the stressful situation. You're literally holding this bow apart. It wants to get you out of that stress. Well, that's the same thing as getting out of bed. The limbic system of the brain is what says, oh my goodness, this is warm and cozy. I don't even want to get out of bed today. Your limbic system will always choose comfort. And you will never get out of bed without saying something in your head that gets you to move your leg out into the cold, right, and onto the hard floor. That's the first mental game that you have to play every single day. But, when we go into these things, it's literally overriding your limbic system or your central nervous system for any problem. But understand that thoughts are not thinking. And this goes right into what Sean's talking about. Thoughts are what you hear. Oh man, I don't really want to pick up the phone today to make that call. Thoughts are what you hear. Thoughts have no instruction. Thoughts have no strategy. Thoughts cannot solve problems. However, you cannot control your thoughts. But understanding that thoughts aren't thinking, thoughts are what you hear, thinking is what you say. So if you need to get out of bed, if you need to pick up that phone, if you need to move to the next stage of your sale or whatever it is, you have to think. Thinking is speech. And so like I was telling you guys, I got to spend the last week with some extremely wealthy generous people. And I asked them the same question that I ask most folks, and it's this: what is the one life skill that has gotten you through everything? It's gotten you through every stressful situation, every argument, every sale, literally everything in your life. And I get things like consistency, discipline, hard work, mental toughness, grit, all of those things. But those are not the answers, because those are the results of this skill. What is the one skill that gets everything or everybody through literally everything in their life? It is this. It's the ability to get loud in your own head with the right words at the right moments. It's literally how you've done everything. When you have those thoughts, you have to increase the volume of your thinking, which is your voice, which has got to be the loudest one in the room. So apply that to whatever it is. So now what I do is I travel around the world teaching people the right words for the right moments, scientifically in movement problems. And then also for cerebral problems like anxiety attacks or depression or any of these things. And I'm not a doctor, but we've got to learn to play the mental game. But when we understand that the ultimate skill of the human being is the ability to get loud in your own head with the right words at the right moments, now we know how to get discipline. Now we know how to do hard work. We know how to get that mental toughness. And a lot of mentors out there tell you these things. You have to have this, you have to have that. Yes, but how do we get it? Right? How do you get loud in your own head? What's it sound like for you to get loud in your own head? So in the Mind IQ courses, we give you an exercise that if you don't get loud in your own head, you won't be able to complete the exercise. So it's just we're starting to work toward practicing the wrong things. And we think that folks are born with these things. They're not. People aren't born mentally tough. They're just louder than the rest of us, right? That is the skill. So take that and apply that to whatever you do, because it's already what you're doing. When you were successful, you had the right words at the right moments and you got loud. If you were unsuccessful with this sale or communicating with this person or whatever, you had the wrong words, you had the wrong moments, or you just weren't loud enough. Because we're literally having to override our limbic system that just wants us to stay in bed all day, right? So it might be diet, it might be whatever. Use the ultimate skill. It's how we get ourselves through things.
Let's do this, because I think it would be really interesting, given what your son has accomplished, given what you've accomplished in the world of archery and shooting is truly unmatched. I mean, you're literally your process is revolutionizing, the sport of archery. It's revolutionizing how people shoot. Why don't you give people the process and the words, and then Sean, let's all riff off of that with some words and some processes to address some things in our world. But I just think it might be helpful if people could hear that, real quick, or not, however you want to describe it.
So let's take, when I go into somewhere, if I go into a corporation, if I go into a sports team, if I go into, if I'm training the Paralympic archery team, whatever it may be, I need to know the problems of that particular industry. What problems are you having? Yeah. And so let's take the Philadelphia Phillies, for example. I walked into that room. There was 40 major league pitchers in the room. There was 10 pitching coaches. There was 6 mental performance coaches in this room. And who am I? To them, I am nobody, right? So I go in there, and the day before I have dinner with the head pitching coach and the head mental performance coach. And what I found, one of the problems that I found in baseball was the mound visit. And coaches take pride in their mound visit. When they have to go, when the pitcher's having a problem, the coach goes out there and, has this little conversation with them, and they either do good right after that or they get pulled, right? So I went in there and they introduced me as, this archery coach, this and that. And they talked about Bodie a little bit, and they're like, oh, okay, take it away, Joel. And I didn't even say who I was. I didn't even explain. I didn't introduce myself at all. I said this. I said, who are my coaches? And I had 10 gentlemen raise their hand around the room. And I said, what's a mound visit sound like for you? And it was dead silence. The players were looking at the coaches. The coaches are looking at the players. And I said, well, I was told I wasn't going to get much participation in this class, so we'll sit here in silence until somebody pipes up, right? So finally, one of the coaches says, well, I like to go out and I like to ask them how they're feeling. I said, okay, what do they tell you? And he said, well, they tell me that they're feeling good or they're feeling bad. And I'm like, okay, well, that is a worthless conversation. I said, here's the deal. Players, you don't know how you do what you do. You can't blueprint it. You've never blueprinted your pitch. Coaches, you've never asked them the right questions. You've never asked them, what do you say during your pitch and when do you say it? So when they're having a mound visit, it's nonsensical. How are you feeling? Oh, I'm not feeling so good. Oh, I'm feeling great. Well, you're not hitting the mitt. So what are we going to do? Right? So now we can say, okay, this pitcher, this particular pitcher, when they lift their leg in the windup, they say coil. That puts their conscious mind into the coiling, right? And when do they do it? When they lift their leg. How do they do it? What's the how of the mental game equation? It's always speech. Speech is what moves thoughts from the limbic system of the brain to the prefrontal cortex where thinking can occur. The vehicle is always speech. So now for this particular pitcher, they know that they say coil when they lift their leg in their windup. The coach now knows that because he's asked the right question. What do you say and when do you say it? And so now the mound visit means something. They go out there, hey man, are you saying coil when you lift your leg? Oh man, coach, I forgot. Okay, let's get back to the blueprint, right? So it's just taking these problems and plugging them into the mental game equation.
Can I give, so like with what we do, I'm going to go big picture. The market is the reason I'm not. So like Joel said, getting out of bed is like, we're thinking about doing that. It just happens. I think some things in our life just become automatic and we do the same thing in our business. They just become automatic. And if things aren't happening the way they're supposed to happen, nothing changes, and nothing changes if nothing changes. So with the market being the reason that everybody didn't do what they wanted to do, that was a thought that we had, but we never chose to override it. Where this time last year, I said, okay, everyone says it gets slow during the holidays. I'm not willing to accept that anymore for myself. There are transactions happening. The problem is not the market. The problem is that I have chosen not to be a part of them. So from now on, I'm going to do this instead in this moment to change that reality. And that is a big picture, like what, and that's kind of a bigger picture thing. If we go micro with the baseball analogy, a baseball player, a pitcher wants to win the game, but you can't win the game if you don't coil to get your process right in that exact tiny little moment. Nothing else matters but that tiny little moment. And when you start analyzing your business, you will find there are tons of tiny little moments where we have the opportunity to shut down our thoughts with voice. Even if it means talking to yourself, you can override your thoughts to get to where you want to be and shut down that negative voice, because that negative voice in your head isn't your voice. It's just a voice.
Right. It's just, remember, thoughts aren't thinking. Thoughts are what you hear. Thinking is what you say. Thoughts have no instruction. Thoughts have no strategy. So analyze your life, analyze your day, analyze your problem. If you're going, oh man, I wish the market would change. Ah, well, it's September. Things are always slow in September. That has no instruction. That has no strategy to it. You've got to become the loudest one in the room of your mind.
And another thing I was thinking about when you were talking about saying the right thing in the right time, when rates were really good, 2020, 2021, everyone did well. And they say they did well because of the interest rates. But if you didn't communicate the benefit of the interest rates to people at that time, you would not have done well. So it's like, where what is the opportunity today? There's always opportunity. It's just whether we choose to find it or not. We're not going to let some external force dictate our success.
A lot of people are running on thoughts alone, and that's how they run their life. But when it really comes down to it, it's that skill of getting loud in your own head with the right words at the right moment. So that's what we got to start to seek. How did I get myself through that? Well, I said this at this moment. Oh, okay. Now I've got a little blueprint for just whatever that little problem is. Problems create an increase in the volume of thoughts. You have no control over the volume of thoughts or the amount of thoughts or what those thoughts are. They are simply what you hear. But you can always adjust the volume of your thinking to whatever stress level you are dealing with.
So how long would it take you to explain the mental game equation for shooting? Like let's just like help everybody be a better shot on this call. How long would it take you to describe that?
About 30 seconds.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
So do you
And
want archery?
yeah, let's do archery. Let's be everybody on here who, has ever shot archery, make us a better shot.
Okay. So in archery, where do you need your conscious mind? Let's plug that. That's the first portion of the mental game equation. Where do you need your conscious mind? You need it in the pressure increase on the trigger. When do you need it there? After you make a decision to concentrate. How do you put it there? Speech. So an archery shot would look like this. Number one, draw back and aim. And you have to understand that you don't have control of your aim. It's controlled by a system called visual proprioception. So you simply put your pin on the target and then just enjoy the show. If you put consciousness toward the aim, it takes away from the consciousness on the trigger press. So if we know we can't control it, just number one, draw back and aim. Number two, we put our finger on the trigger, right? That's where we address the trigger. Number three is a decision. Here I go. Why do we use here I go? Because that's what you would say to jump off of a cliff. You're about to do a movement that causes your body impact. You will never just find yourself doing that because the limbic system is like, heck no, we are not doing this today. So if you got your little toesies hanging over the edge of the cliff and you're looking down, you're like, whoo-hoo, I don't know if that water's deep enough, right? If you have that thought, that has no instruction, that has no strategy. You will not find yourself jumping off of a cliff. You will not find yourself doing a movement that causes your body impact. So that's why the third job in an archery shot or a rifle shot is to make the decision. Decisions increase presence. And once you are present enough, then and only then can you concentrate. How do you concentrate? Speech. So the shot would look like this. Number one, draw back and aim. Number two, address the trigger. Number three, here I go. And number four is the conversation about the trigger press. And so one of the biggest things in shooting now is commentary shooting. So when you do whatever you're doing, this came from the concept of commentary driving. Like when I was a brand new cop in the EVOC course, the Emergency Vehicle Operations course, you had to do commentary driving. So when you are doing you're driving down the road, you were not allowed to stop talking. You had to talk about what street was coming up next. Oh, it's a red car coming from the right. There's a female walking down the street. There's a white car parked at that store. You were not allowed to stop talking. So now in an archery shot, when I need people to quickly gain control of their mind, they gain control of their speech first. So I have them shoot while they're talking out loud and they are speaking like they are teaching. Because if the conversation, and you do that until the conversation becomes easy. Okay, I'm drawing back and aiming. Okay, got it. Yeah, that's good. Okay, now I'm putting my finger on the trigger. Okay, got it. Now I'm going to increase my presence by saying, here I go. Here I go. And now I'm going to talk myself through the pressure increase on the trigger by saying, okay, easy now, squeeze, until the shot breaks. It's commentary shooting. So take the commentary skill and put it into whatever your problem is, because when you say it out loud, then you know what you said and when you said it, and it eliminates all of the fluff. Because people can say that they're talking themselves through it in their head, but if they've never done it out loud, I don't believe they really know what they're saying. And I did that instruction model for years. Okay, say to yourself this, this, and this. And I'm like, did you do it? Well, I think I did. But if I couldn't hear it, I didn't know exactly what was going through their mind. Now I have people talk out loud, and I have them do that until the conversation becomes easy, and it's much faster to learn a skill. So when you're doing something, put the commentary skill into it and speak as if you are teaching someone else how you do it.
All right. So guys, put this on pause, listen to that again. And now, Sean, I have an idea that I want to play out now, where everyone on this call, we're in sales, and I don't care who you are, there is someone important to your business that you have anxiety about calling. And the challenge is, like, top producers, there's not a lot of people that have anxiety in calling, like a Jeremy Forcier, who I've interviewed countless times. Like, but I'll guarantee you there is someone that he has anxiety about calling. I guarantee Sean has some baller agent that, for whatever reason, they either intimidate him, they've never responded to him, he has anxiety calling. And so I want to, and then too many of you on this call, you have anxiety calling anyone. Like everybody gives you anxiety, and that's called, call reluctance, and you don't do your prospecting. So Sean, let's play, and the two of you are going to talk about how to overcome that, and for you to call that person. So literally everybody watches this, they got takeaways that will make them a better shot for the people that shoot. And everybody who's watching this is going to get a little clinic to help them call someone that they have anxiety about calling, and be their best when they make that call. You guys cool with that?
Heck yeah, let's do it.
Let's go.
All right. So I'll do it, and then you tell me where I'm doing it wrong, because I hate cold calling people, and I won't. So my fear and anxiety of cold calling, I think everyone has it. I don't want to be rejected, right? That's the number one reason we don't pick up the phone or do whatever we need to do. So I have to come to override that, I have to come from a place of service, not sales. I have to have a good reason to reach out to somebody. So a lot of times I'll put together an event just because I know that if I do this event, it will have tons of value. And that gave me a reason to call this person, other than just checking a box and saying I'm doing it to do it. So my process would be, I'm super scared to call this person, create an event worth inviting someone to. Cool. Now you have purpose. And then it becomes easy to call and invite someone to something that I feel has value. But that's how I would override that anxiousness or anxiety or fear of rejection. Because if I think I'm of value and they decide they don't want to come to the event, you're lost. Like, that changes everything for me.
So let's look at what anxiety really is to start with. I mean, public speaking is one of the greatest fears of the human being. And it's not necessarily the speaking, it's the humiliation. It's the fear of public humiliation. And of course, you don't want to get rejected on the call, but anxiety is a loss of perspective, is a loss of reality. Because when you call this person, even if they say no to you, they're not shooting at you, right? It's a loss of perspective. And that's what 20 years of being a law enforcement officer got me. I used every event that I was involved with, every good thing, every bad thing, whatever it was, it gave me perspective. So there's this saying that I always say, well, I'm not getting shot at right now, right? So if you've never been shot at, highly recommended, don't get hit, right? Highly recommended, but don't get hit, because it will change your perspective on everything. So Sean, you do this event to make the approach easier on folks, because now you've got something to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you always have something to talk about, right? Whatever service you're providing or whatever, but nobody's going to shoot at you over the phone. So pick up the phone. So if it's an anxiety issue, that's what we call a cerebral problem. Like in Mind IQ, we've got movement problems, of which there's millions, and we have cerebral problems, of which there are millions. But what's the first mental game to play for any cerebral problem? So you're sitting there and you're looking at your phone, you're like, oh man, I really don't want to call this guy, or whatever it may be. That is a thought. That is not thinking. So, but if we're having that cerebral issue, the first mental game is always breathing. And any mental guru will always talk to you, tell you that breathing is the thing, but that's just the first mental game. So one of the best ways to lower your heart rate so that you can increase the volume of your thinking is from Andrew Huberman, called the physiological sigh: in through the nose to the top, extra through the nose, and then out through the mouth. And what that does, it slows your heart rate down so that now you can think, right? So let's gain some perspective. We know that we're not going to get shot at. We're in the now, we're sitting in our nice cozy office or whatever it may be, or in your van or whatever, but life is not that bad right now. So let's make this phone call. Pick up the phone, right? Where do you need your conscious mind? In picking up the phone. When do you need it there? Right now, after you've gained your increase in volume of thinking. How do you put your conscious mind in picking up the phone? Speech. It's literally that simple. And people are like, there's no way it can be that simple. Well, analyze everything that you've ever done in your life, and you will find that you have talked yourself through it. You had the right words at the right moments, right? And you got loud. So, it's all just overriding the limbic system. The limbic system does not want to be humiliated on the phone. Okay. The central nervous system does not want to get shot. But if neither one of those are happening, you're okay. So pick up the doggone phone and talk to folks about the things that you're offering or whatever it may be.
So it sounds like anything that has, a high anxiety, like just say in business,
Mhm.
and let's say speaking in public and calling people that give you anxiety, I'm not getting shot right now. Like that's not a bad thing to say to yourself, and just get you in a perspective.
Yes.
And there's probably other things people could say, but
Sure.
just takeaway for me right now is, and you're totally right. I mean, so often I loved the quote you said, anxiety is a loss of perspective. Like I would push everybody to listen to this. Like that is a concept and a belief that I wrote down. I'm going to think about. I'm going to personally say that to myself when I get myself in those situations. I'm not getting shot right now, and then figure out what the right thing to say to yourself to get you to do the action in a way that is tension free. And then I guess the other thing, though, kind of I'm playing the formula that you used on the trigger. Like if you're going to say the right thing at the right time, part of it was not obsessing over the target, like
The
the
aim, right?
result,
Mhm.
focusing on the trigger. And this is just me kind of collaborating as a coach together.
Sure.
Is I'm almost saying like, don't worry about the result. Like don't, and knowing that if I want someone to like me, my target is for me to like them.
Mhm.
And so what are your thoughts on that person? Your goal is not to get them to like you or the result. Your goal is to get on the phone with that person and have a conversation where you end up liking them. Because I'm just going to believe that magic's going to happen if
Sure.
that happens. And I'm going to learn how to be valuable to that person. Like I'm not going to go in saying I'm going to be valuable. I want
Mhm.
to, I want to get that person. I want to like them at the end of the conversation, and I want to learn how to be valuable to them.
And
And
you have to know, like when we had our conversation a while back, if you want to know what somebody is thinking, you do not ask them, what do you think? What are you thinking right now? You don't ask them that, because what they will give you is their thoughts, and thoughts are not thinking. If you need to know what's going through the head of your buyer, you have to ask them, what are you saying in your head right now? And
Mhm.
that will give you the true view into what's really going on.
So don't ask, what do you think? Go, What's
Don't
going
ask
on
what
in
are
your
you
head right
thinking.
now?
Say,
So,
what are you saying in your head right now? And
oh,
they won't usually be able to put that out. They'll have to put it out loud. And then you're like, okay, I get it. That's your concern. All right, cool. Let's work with that now. You'll never get that information by asking somebody what they're thinking. Because
So-
I think that's so cool, because that statement right there, if you say, what are you thinking? That means I'm making that voice in my head my own. When you reframe the question, it'd be so much. I just kind of went through that on my own mind. I'm like, oh yeah, you'd speak entirely different, even though I'm trying to get to the same result. I'm just reframing the words to get not the right answer, but the appropriate answer, I guess.
I mean, if you need to know what's in somebody's brain, don't ask them what they're thinking, because that you're assuming they know the difference between thoughts and thinking. Say, hey man, what are you saying in your head right now?
what are you saying in your head right now? So Sean, you probably haven't, I don't know if you listened to the interview I did with Jeremy yesterday, but he's using MortgageCoach. And by the way, a big topic in our market right now is rate and term refis. And most lenders are just calling up and saying, hey, I can lower your rate by 1%, and I can save you, in the case of Jeremy yesterday, it was $373 a month. You know, you want to do it? Let's go. Now, Jeremy is saying, hey, I told you I was going to watch your rates and monitor it. And when I could save you money, I was going to call you. And right now I could save you $373 right now, or I could save you $240,000 over the life of the loan and help you pay off the house 7 years faster. What sounds more interesting to you? By the way, was Jeremy's script, but it sounds like you're saying you're going to get a better answer if you were to ask that customer after you did that sequence. What are you saying to yourself right now about that? Is that what you're saying?
That will give you what they are thinking.
Got it. What do
Instead
you
of
think about that, Sean, in the real world? Is that you going to try that?
Yeah, 100. So I already apply. I forget when I took the class. I think it was in May, and I already applied thoughts are not thinking. I use it like all day, every day. Like the breathing that Joel just described, I learned that from free diving. So a lot of the things that we don't think about doing these things in our business, and I think that's what's missing for a lot of people. So like with my refi process, I don't tell people how much they're going to save. I tell them how much they're going to lose in interest if they stay in their current mortgage, because people are more likely to react to negativity than positivity, right? If I went to my son and said, Bodie, if you don't clean up your room, or if you clean up your room, I'll give you $5. He will be more likely to do it if I say, Bodie, I'm going to take away your ET if you don't clean up your room. We're scared to lose as human beings. So it's the same question, but framed in a different way, because it's reacting to how humans react. And everything Joel's describing is physical or mental. This is how we as human beings are programmed. We just choose not to accept it. Like, I just want to come back to the shooting analogy. So when I take the class, I line up to take a shot. My front hand is what's controlling the pin. I'm focused on that, thinking this hand back here is solid. It's anchored. It's not going anywhere. When I pull the trigger and the arrow doesn't go where it was supposed to go, I think it's my front hand. So I should get a new stabilizer. I should do this. I should do that. My grip is wrong. And Joel's like, it's this, your thumb. That's it. It was the exact opposite of what I thought was the problem. And I think a lot of times we keep trying to solve problems in the same way we've always done it, instead of analyzing if there could be an opposite way to do it. And that's what I do. I mean, I'll give one more quick example of like a complete dread of screwing up on somebody's loan. Get somebody in a contract, they waive all their contingencies, meaning their deposits on the hook. They send me their updated document, and the thing they've been doing for months, they didn't do this new month, and now their loan doesn't work. And I felt fear, dread, and panic. Like I almost felt nauseous because of the situation I felt I put this person in. And I took a deep breath and I went, okay, what other solutions are there? What other programs work? And then by doing that, I found a way to save them $200 more per month that I never would have made had I not screwed it up. Right. But it was everything Joel's describing of, okay, Sean, you screwed up, this person screwed, all this and that. Deep breath, thoughts are not thinking. What can I do in this exact moment to fix this situation? Like it is so applicable in what we do every single day, every single moment.
All right. Well, I think we've given a lot of value. Joel, this has been an amazing conversation. It sounds like I need to do an interview with Sean on his refi script. I did one with Jeremy, and we've got his. He is calling, texting, and emailing, so they know it's a big deal. He is like, "Hey, do you want to save 373 or pay off your house 7 years faster? What sounds more interesting?" Sounds like maybe we should do an edit and say, what are you thinking about right now? Right? Like Joel,
What are you
that's,
saying? What are you saying in your
oh,
head
what are
right
you saying in your head right now? When I
now?
say that, what are you saying in your head right now? And you're going to get a better answer that's more accurate and more useful to you as an advisor. So Joel, I want to make sure people know about your program, and obviously, if they're they're hunters and shooters, I think they've connected the dots. Shot
Yeah.
IQ, but tell us a little bit about Mind IQ and what might be useful to anybody on this call at mindiq.com.
So at mindiq.com, that's the page for the MindIQ online course. The overarching page is turnermodel.com, and that's where you find Shot IQ and MindIQ. And it's it's a phenomenal website, by the way, but uh, it's I'm just trying to get this information out there to people. Yes, it is very simple, but it's the overlooked things. It's the skills that we're all looking for that we've overlooked. It's the how we do virtually everything. So the Mind IQ online course is available at mindiq.com or turnermodel.com. All the Shot IQ stuff is shotiq.com, and online courses. And I'm Joel Turner Actual on Instagram. DM me if you're having a problem that you need to know how to plug it into the mental game equation. And we've done it for all sorts of problems. Sometimes I have to think a bit more about it because I don't know about that industry or whatever, but I will figure out exactly where to put your conscious mind, when to put it there, and how to put it there.
All right, guys. So I would love to see this guy on some stages in the industry. Turnermodel.com. It is a pretty radical website, by the way. Check this out. We've got a little comment from Joe Rogan. We've got this guy was on, Dr. Peter Attia.
Attia, Peter
I
Attia.
always say his name wrong. I know I say everybody's name wrong. But check it out. And then, of course, different courses, the Shot IQ, the Mind IQ. He does public speaking. Anyways, bro, you are a gift. I got value from this conversation. You're going to make me a more successful leader at what I do. And I think anybody that really listened to this, took notes from it, is going to be a better mortgage advisor. They're going to be more valuable to the families they serve. And for all the hunters out there, and you didn't know about the Turner method, we just hooked you up.
Yeah.
Sean, any closing thoughts you have? Did this deliver on what you had hoped for? Is anything that didn't get delivered that you want to make sure it gets delivered?
No, this is exactly what I want it to be. I just hope that people do something with it. I think all too often we're just looking for a tactic or a strategy. Those things just don't matter if you don't have this part figured out. And I've seen a lot of it missing this year. So my hope is that in the next 90 days, you reframe your mindset so that the tactics actually work.
Yeah, and I want to close out with the framework of the modern mortgage advisor. There's these 8 pillars, and one of the things that we always talk about, to be level 5 at something, like to be level 1, you need to know it. To be level 2, you need to do it. To be level 3, you need to know it and do it so well you can teach it. To be level 4 at any of the things in the modern mortgage IQ, you you need to do all those things, and it needs to be a habit. But then level 5 is you can teach it, you do it, it's a habit, and your results prove it. And so like if you think of that framework, how Sean caught himself, like if you really go to level 5 at everything that you're doing, you may think that you're delivering the mortgage coach right. You may think that you're calling people right, and you have a habit. But if your results don't support it, then you need to really rethink things. And I think you got a framework, you got a process to rethink how you're approaching things. So I can't wait for that interview, Sean. Joel, any closing thoughts as we wrap it up, brother?
Just you got to know how you do what you do, and this is the blueprint to figure that out. You will have successes, you will have failures. What's the difference? There should be no good days and bad days anymore. You have a specific way to do things. Figure out what that is with the mental game equation, thoughts aren't thinking, open and closed loop control systems, the ultimate skill of the human being. And then you will understand how you did what you did, and you can be successful over and over and over again.
Yeah. And by the way, anybody that's suffering from getting out of bed, it's never been a problem for me. And even before Tom Brady made "let's go" a thing, like my whole life, it's like, let's go. Get a word, like getting out of bed, like you guys get a word, get out of bed early, win early in the morning, win by noon, and make sure you check out this man's content. I hope to hear a lot of mortgage coaches and realtors are going through Mind IQ. Take care, everybody. This is a wrap.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, folks.